Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. I'm your host, Joe Slepsky. That new intro you just heard is by Jay Flax and the Heart Attacks. They're a Washington, D.C. based band. You need to check them out on Facebook and listen to all of their music. Now, this week, we are back on track with a very special episode called Excalibur. And with me to celebrate the crowning or the knighting of the crown of the British Isles, somehow Action Force was not involved in this story, is my friend from California, Matt Plassman. Matt, welcome to Joe on Joe.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Glad to be here.
Oh, my God. I'm so happy to have you. Matt is a self-professed Joe fan. He grew up playing with the toys, and he is a assistant to writers out here on Modern Family.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that statement?
I would agree with that statement. That is true.
Awesome. So you work on Modern Family, which is probably the number one family sitcom going.
I'd imagine, yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I really don't know what.
That's not even like a weird Trumpian hyperbole.
No.
We're number one in the ratings. It's not Modern Family's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you worked on the show?
I've worked on it since the middle of season 3, so I'm a little over 5 years now.
That's really cool. And in what capacity do you? So you work with the writers. What capacity? What do you do there?
I work for 2 particular writers. I'm kind of in with them through their deal with Fox.
Awesome.
So I do whatever they need doing.
Okay.
I run errands for them. I can set up meetings. We've been having some fun because they've been developing a pilot. So I've been helping them out with that as much as possible. So just anything they need.
That's an exciting opportunity. So you're a writer yourself.
Yes.
You went to William and Mary?
I did.
Cool. And you're originally from the greatest sounding city that I've ever heard and never heard of before, Defiance, Ohio?
Correct.
Okay. Did you just grow up with a sense of superiority about all other towns? Like what? Did you live next to inferior Ohio? And,
kind of, yeah.
Lesser than you, Ohio?
Yeah, I kind of feel like we did look down on other towns. So
Yeah. Well, what's Defiance, Ohio like? What's that all about?
It's small,
But proud.
But proud. It's a football town, as most towns are in the
very
Midwest.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a lot of rural area around it. That's something that was weird moving out to LA, is not when you leave a town and you go into a cornfield, miles and miles of cornfield. It's just endless pavement.
Did they? I'm fascinated by the name. Were there town slogans all over playing on the name Defiant? Like, we defy you to beat our prices here in Defiant, Ohio, stuff like that?
No, I don't really remember that. That's probably a missed opportunity.
I need to run for mayor of Defiant, Ohio, and just make Defiant again. Really, I think it's what we need to do. How long have you been out here in LA?
Just over 9.5 years.
Great. And it was straight out of college?
No, I was a year at home trying to figure out how I was going to get out here.
No, Matt. You spent a year in Defiant. Figuring out how you were
Defiance.
Going to come back. You home. You were Defiance or Defiant?
Defiance.
Oh, that's even better. It's even better. So let's talk G.I. Joe, my friend.
Okay.
You're a fan. I know we discussed. You told me your favorite guy was Flint.
Yeah.
And how did you describe it?
He was my first Joe and my last Joe.
Elaborate.
The first G.I. Joe toys I had, I don't even know where it came from, but I had a Flint action figure that was probably the original Flint design, and just like a generic tank. And that was where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last toy I think I ever got was the Flint Eco Warrior.
Awesome.
And so he kind of bookended my Joe experience.
That's so funny because on Instagram, which if your listeners are out there and you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter, you can find me at Joe on Joe Pod. On Instagram, I'm tweeting out the Impel trading cards from 1991, which it would have been right when you were collecting. And the Flint that they have in those trading cards is the Eco Warrior Flint, and he looks nothing like Flint.
No,
he's green bubbled, suited, right?
He's got a yellow full helmet.
Yes, yes, it's crazy. And for when I first tweeted out, I had a couple people respond with like, that's not Flint. Like, who is that? Who's that in person? So you had the Eco Warrior.
I have
Flint.
the Eco Warrior Flint.
Oh, that's so great. Now, when you would play with them with Eco Warrior Flint, would he only look to solve eco problems? Like only looking like
no, I thought
Cobra's taken over Fort Knox. But I can't deal with that right now because there's global warming to solve. Like, is that the kind of thing that
I
you would do?
completely ignored the eco. I just used it like a regular Joe.
What? Tell me about your Joe toys then. What other like figures did you have? Did you have a large collection? Moderate?
I feel like I had a fairly large collection.
Ooh.
I had a lot of figures, which I probably can't name all. I probably have all the file cards at home still. But I had like Shockwave. I had some Battle Force 2000 guys, which I know you've mocked on the show.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I'm into sci-fi. I was kind of into it.
No, I love sci-fi. But like here's what's Battle Force 2000 is. They're sitting around a table. They're like, all right, we got some new vehicles. And I'm talking about the actual G.I. Joes themselves.
Right.
Like in their world. They're sitting around the table like, welcome to the Joe Force. We need to come up with a new name. We got some vehicles that are a little fancier than our normal vehicles, right? They're a little better than a Sky Striker, a little better than, like a Slugger and all that stuff. But we need to come up with this nifty nickname. And the guy's like, well, listen, the millennium, it's just about 15 years away. Let's go with 2000. So it'll give us a good 15-year head start before people think we're obsolete. And like I feel like everyone else at that table started high-fiving, and we're like, that sounds fantastic.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
It's really funny, though, because they're all outfitted with laser guns, and on the TV show, they all have lasers anyway.
Yeah. That's the eternal question. What good is the laser trooper when everyone has lasers? Although, I think it's on this episode, but on one of the episodes coming up, someone refers to something as being bulletproof. And I thought,
how would they know?
You don't know what bulletproof is. You're shooting lasers, my friend. So you had Battle Force 2000. Did you get into like the Ninja Force stuff?
Oh, I didn't quite get. I was it's like little bits here and there. I didn't ever follow like a particular line exclusively. It's like what you'd find at the store and just like buy, or like what your parents or grandparents would get you for Christmas or whatever.
Was it the kind of thing you would use your own allowance on and stuff, or
probably occasionally?
Yeah. And I look back, and you see in pictures online, or like I have one carded Joe still. I mean, I have all my figures, but I still have one card. And for me, you said your first and last was Flint. My first was Snake Eyes. My last was Snake Eyes. and when it was time for me to stop playing, I said I need to go buy one more Snake Eyes. And I had I think it was working a paper route then. So like I had paper out money, which was that you were flush with paper out money.
Yeah.
That was an all cash business, my friend. And I remember buying it, and I still have it. It's still sitting on my shelf today. And the price tag's on it, and you look back on it, and you see it's like, what was it, like $1.97 or something like that?
It was cheap, yeah.
So ridiculously cheap.
But it seemed like so much.
Yeah, it was always so out of reach. And now I'm thinking back, I'm like, why didn't someone just buy me everything on the shelf? Why was it a pick and choose thing? Today, you go, like, so I know Matt from Golden Apple Comics out here. Matt's a loyal comic reader. And, we sell action figures in the store. They're $25.
I'm glad I don't actually look at the prices.
They're like the Marvel Legends and all. And obviously, they're sculpted better and bigger,
right.
And all, so I understand that. But still, if a kid comes in and is like, I want to buy a X-Men, I want to buy a Wolverine action figure, it's $25.
I used to buy X-Men action figures from the bargain bin for like 3 for $10.
Yeah, KB Toys.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. So, when I think about those prices, my head spins. I'm like, why did I not have one of everything? Like, how does, and I don't mean that it's like my parents. I'm just like, it's so crazy, the economics of it all. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I had a recurring dream for the longest time, where I was in the dream, I was traveling out of somewhere. It was rural. It was definitely rural, and it was like a mom and pop kind of a resale shop or thrift store or something like that. And this is a recurring dream when I was an adult.
Okay.
And I would turn a corner in an aisle, and there in the aisle were mint carded G.I. Joe figures. Not Star Wars figures, which as an adult I knew were worth 10 times the money. Oh no! it was always mint carded G.I. Joe figures of like the first run. You know, and I was always like, yeah, let's do this. This is the best dream ever. Yeah. It's a little insight into me. Comic books. Did you read them?
Yeah, I got into
Like the G.I. Joe?
the G.I. Joe ones, not so much. My comic book collecting experience has been probably rather unique.
How so?
I didn't get into comic book collecting until maybe about the 3rd grade. And I did it. I ordered the catalogs that came for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
You could order a Marvel pack and a DC pack. And it was probably just random leftovers.
Sure.
That were stock from the year. And sometimes some older stuff got in there. And that's how I started. The comic books I got were mainly just basically like a pack of like 20 or 30 random who knows what you're going to get from the last year.
Awesome.
And so I did that for like 3 or 4 years. We had a comic book store in town, but I didn't have a lot of money to spend on it. But I would go there occasionally, maybe once every month or two, and I'd buy an issue or so. And then the comic book stopped being offered in the catalogs, and the shop closed down. So then I didn't have anything for a while.
Rough times hit Defiance, Ohio.
And then I found the Rite Aid on the east side of town had a rack of Marvel, only Marvel. So that's why my Marvel collection is about twice as big as my DC collection. And so I'd go there every month, and I'd just buy whatever was on the rack. And that lasted about a couple years, and then nothing again until I was in college. And then for 2 summers, I'd come home, a new comic book shop had opened in town. So I'd come home, and I'd spend half of the money I'd make over like mowing my grandpa's farm and stuff. I'd spend half of that money on comic books there, just like back issues.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really until I moved to LA that I started keeping up with current comics. I think Golden Apple is the first time I've had a pull list.
Oh, exciting. Well, that's a sporadic fun history. And you never read the Joe books?
I had a couple.
Do you read the Joe books now?
I had never gotten into it. It's something I just kind of
now would be
lost track of.
Let me throw an advertisement out there. Now would be a good time. The IDW
it would.
is just
I
relaunching
picked up the one shot.
Oh, did you? What'd you think of it?
I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Oh no! Listen, I got a stack like a baby's arm waiting to be read at home.
Yeah,
it's silly. Yeah. Well, I'm excited. So I don't think you've seen this episode.
No, I would imagine I haven't.
Yeah, it is called Excalibur. It is about the Excalibur sword.
That makes sense.
And but it's got some really great characters in it, characterization as well. And I'm excited. So Matt Plassman, thank you so much for being on the show. And we're going to get right into Excalibur. What do you say?
All right.
Let's do this. Okay, so the opening, we've got all the vehicles spotlighted. What kind of vehicles did you have, Matt?
I had later generation vehicles, I believe. My big one was Rolling Thunder, which was this.
Oh, yeah.
If you're familiar with that one.
Describe it.
It's just like a huge, long tank, and it's got all these different pods and these huge missiles that shoot off of it. It's like the land version of the carrier.
Yeah, it was like, I remember that toy. I never had it, and it had big oversized wheels too, right?
Yeah.
It actually it looked like the vehicle that they used on the cartoon for that Captives of Cobra episode that we did with Aubrey.
Yeah.
Where they were holding the gems in, like
yeah.
the transport
it kind of reminded me of it.
Like
yeah.
that. Yeah. And basically it was the cable of vehicles, or maybe I should say it was like designed by Rob Liefeld.
Yeah,
like
it was on steroids.
Yeah, like they were like, any place that we can put a gun, we're gonna put a
exactly.
gun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the episode starts with Excalibur, written by Dan DiStefano, and we are not in America, ladies and gentlemen. We are in merry old England.
Only 15 miles from the coast of Britain and no Cobra.
And we open up on the USS Flag. Shipwreck's there. Did you have like Shipwreck or Duke or?
No, I except for I had like a Tiger Force bazooka and the Slaughter Marauders Mutton Junkyard.
The
and I think
Slaughter Marauders. Thank you for reminding me of that.
And I think those are besides Flint, are the only characters. Oh, I had Storm Shadow. I had the second generation Storm Shadow
yeah,
with the
that's cool.
sleeves.
Yeah.
But
Do you remember what the Slaughter Marauders, like what was special about them? Because I can't picture. I remember that.
they all had like blue shirts.
Is that it?
I really don't. It's probably just a way to repackage some characters and sell them
Oh,
again.
sure. Yeah, but they were. I mean, they were. It was like they were garrisoned under Sergeant Slaughter.
Yeah,
right?
I don't remember what was special for them besides that.
I really. I need to look that up because I really hope like somehow that somehow Junkyard had some Sergeant Slaughter tattoo on him or something. like somehow they made Junkyard. Sergeant
No, it was
Slaughter.
just a black dog.
Oh, that's too bad. So we've got an air combat going on between Rattlers and Sky Strikers, and strangely, the Cobra Rattler is being flown by a ninja.
I was gonna say it was Storm Shadow flying a plane.
Yeah. So Destro's flying, Storm Shadow's flying, Major Blood is flying, but why is Storm Shadow flying? But I will say though, he is the first person to get shot out of the sky.
Well,
So perhaps
ninjas don't have flight training.
yes. So maybe it actually the reason, it makes sense. If we're gonna put a ninja in the plane, he better get shot out of the sky.
Yeah.
So he's actually going to crash and die, and he screams that destiny's come for him.
He didn't eject with a parachute?
No, because that wouldn't serve the plot, I think. And also maybe, like ninjas don't shoot,
Yeah.
like maybe he's got that tattooed on his arm. Like ninjas don't CHUTE. Like
Okay.
Ninjas, like they go down with the ship. But when he crashes, he finds a lake and he throws on like a rebreather and he ejects from the Rattler. The Rattler's at the bottom of this lake. And it's very important that it's a lake, because at the very bottom is a giant sword. And the sword, he rises out, he's holding it aloft, and with the magic sword, he says, "By the power of Grayskull." Long cartoon.
Yeah.
That's
not
quoting He-Man.
right.
But what's funny is Storm Shadow immediately knows that it's the fabled sword Excalibur.
It's almost like he planned to crash down there.
Right? Oh, he's a ninja. Ninjas are sneaky. We cut to Cobra Commander and Destro, who are having their usual tete-a-tete. I love that.
Is that like a hologram table, or how
It's
is that?
totally a hologram table. That's pretty advanced tech for Cobra at the time. I feel like most bad guys were just using actual models. This is hologram models.
I know. It's like they think they are on CNN.
Yeah. Well, the skies have opened up over this part of Britain. And now there's a huge storm, not snowstorm, but a huge storm.
Yeah.
Like a rainstorm, right? And that's going to be important as the episode
What
goes
about
on.
using the
Okay.
hovercraft to get the radar system
Lady
ashore?
J's in the mix,
It's worth the
Flint,
risk.
Duke,
Let's go for it.
Shipwreck, loading up a hovercraft with some stuff. I don't even know. Do you
It's
know
just
what they are?
it was a box.
It was a
It was a
box.
generic,
It's a generic box. Storm Shadow emerges from the lake.
Dry.
Well, ninjas dry very quickly. We know this. And he's heading towards town. So the Josers, this is their anti-Cobra laser system, I think is what
Oh, okay.
yeah. So these are all the pieces to it. So they're going to have to cover it up with the tarp. Quick Kicks there, always shirtless.
Even in the rain.
Even in the rain, even the cold England rain. And Storm
It's got
Shadow,
lightsaber noises.
it does have a lightsaber noise.
Anti-Cobra radar system. The fates have smiled on me this day. With but one blow from Excalibur, the new Joe radar system will be useless.
And that's what Storm Shadow's about to do. He's about to destroy the Joe radar
Oh.
system. He ended up just his aim got deflected by a laser blast by I think Footloose, and he ended up cutting a
Statue in
cutting a
half.
statue in half, which Quick Kick points out was pretty amazing. And you know what's funny is Storm Shadow's the the antagonist here, and two of the leads are Quick Kick and Spirit, who are kind of the stand-ins for Snake Eyes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because they're always the foils to Storm Shadow, so they actually included them both in this episode. Footloose is on this episode too, who's pretty cool because he's like a hey dude, like he's a stoner. Let's get real. Look at Footloose's helmet. He basically has pot leaves on his helmet, right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's a pretty accurate description.
Stop me when I'm wrong. Storm Shadow uses Excalibur, slices their guns, and he jumps on one of the original motorcycle, which was the Vamp, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that was called the Vamp, and because they used a lot on the cartoon, they used the Silver Mirage a lot.
Okay.
But they actually have him on the old school, which is like the original motorcycle, which is always a cool look. It's the green one with the machine gun on the side. And Footloose cannot stop Storm Shadow, but he's about to cut Footloose's. He's about to slice Footloose in half, frankly.
Huh.
With Lightning Thunder, we go into commercial.
Return after these messages.
Today's Filecard Feature is on the G.I. Joe SWAT Team Specialist, codename Shockwave. His file name is Jason A. Faria. His primary military specialty is the Special Weapons and Tactics, and his secondary military specialty is choir. His birthplace is Dearborn, Michigan. Shockwave was the youngest member of the Detroit Police Department SWAT team, and the holder of 2 citations for bravery when he signed up for and was accepted by the G.I. Joe team. When asked why he left a promising career to work longer hours for less money, kicking down doors on better armed adversaries, Shockwave replied, "What? You think I do this for the money?" Here's his personal quote. "Everybody on a SWAT team has a specific job, like in a choir. Choirs have tenors, baritones, altos, etc. SWAT teams have sharpshooters, climbers, and inside men. Shockwave is the door kicker. He's the first inside and the first to find out how bad it really is. He's also a half-decent tenor when his voice is in shape." Shockwave was a neat-looking character. He was dressed in all blue, like a police officer. And to this collector, I always thought of him as like a blue variant of Beachhead, you know? So I never had him as a figure, and he wasn't in the comic books much, so I didn't follow him. But if you take a closer look at him, he's pretty cool. His costume's pretty awesome. And I would think being a SWAT team guy is pretty helpful on the G.I. Joe squad, because they would do a lot of breaches and assaults on civilian homes and things like that when they're trying to root out Cobra. So I think he should play a much larger role than he actually did. In the comics, he primarily appeared in the Special Missions series, and as time went on, he would show up in the major group scenes, like, you know, storming Cobra Island and, you know, during the Civil War and things like that. Shockwave's, he's got a blue camo, he's got the face mask and the baseball cap on, and kind of like urban camo design, but he looks pretty cool. So I'm down with Shockwave. Jason A. Faria, we salute you.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
I was really looking forward to a gravity break.
Right? No gravity.
I feel a little cheated.
You feel a little cheated. But look at it, though. He cut the motorcycle in half.
The information you possess may prove invaluable to Cobra
He doesn't
Commander.
realize he must be like a stoner.
Yeah.
He's probably not the best guy to kidnap for that.
Hey, man, I don't know anything about this anti-laser system, man. I'm just here for the good times. He totally is the wrong guy to kidnap.
Who'd have better luck kidnapping Polly?
No, Spirit gives us the first clue that something's wrong. And look at this guy.
Come to talk about the sword.
His name is
Excalibur.
Beamish.
Of course.
He's Scottish,
Like in King Arthur?
and he's the role
Be the
of
home of the Lady of the Lake.
the
Keeper of Excalibur.
he's the guy in the so you're a writer.
Yeah.
He's the guy with too much exposition.
Ah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In the horror movie, he's the guy at the gas station that says, "You kids shouldn't go down to the cabin because you never know who's going to get killed." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, screw you, old man." And that's exactly what just happened.
Before
And look
either
what
of you
Duke
two
says.
muttonheads start believing any of this superstition, I want you to get out there and find Footloose, and this time don't come back without him.
Yeah, so Duke is like, Beamish is out of Beamish's mind. Let's get real. Let's find Footloose. Get his pot plants back in our custody. He's totally got pot plants. So yeah, so Beamish is the local exposition guy. I feel like Defiance, Ohio would have had an exposition guy. Some guy who was like the lore keeper of Defiance.
So he has to go and explain everything.
Yeah.
The history of the town.
Mm-hmm. Like, how did we get the name? Like, you'd be sitting around at a local coffee shop or something, or diner,
Yeah.
and someone would go like, "I'm new in town. How did Defiance come to be?" And then the guy would pop out from behind the counter and be like, "Well, let me tell you."
Yeah, my dad used to do stuff like that. Like, when people would go, Defiance, Ohio, what's that? And he'd explain the little story.
Oh my God, I want to know the story. we're gonna have you on. So you're heading home for the holidays shortly, and you said you're gonna dig through your Joes.
I am.
I'm gonna have you back on so we get some hot Joe toy talk.
Okay.
And I also want an update on Defiance, Ohio.
Okay.
That's what I want. So mark that.
All right.
Have that conversation with your dad. Your dad is the exposition man.
Yeah, he was. He was. He would go on vacation. People would ask where we're from, and he'd tell them, and then they go, really? And then they'd get a story they probably didn't really want to hear.
Oh, it's so great. It's so fantastic. So Beamish just showed up again out of nowhere. The rain is getting worse on the show. And until Excalibur gets back to the Lady in the Lake, the rain and the weather is going to just be nuts. There's a local dam that's about to overflow. Oh, that's the G.I. Joe mobile battle platform. Do you remember that? Did that come out a little bit before your time? Because I had that.
I think I've seen it. I probably knew somebody who had it. That
Really
looks
cool.
familiar.
Yeah, it had like the red struts that you could,
Yeah.
that were expandable, so you could actually sit it higher or lower.
Okay.
So we could the idea was that you could put it on rocky terrain, so you could have it half
Oh.
on rocks and half on flat land, and one of the struts would be flat, and the other one would be extended to make it taller.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
That's-
It had a helicopter landing pad, and
Cobra
Duke's
launched a
making
massive
friends
attack
with the
out
local
of the
8-year-old
as our men
children.
pulled back from the battle
Well.
platform.
Then we'll make us stand by the lake.
you know, why not, right?
to protect
Hearts and
the town.
minds.
Exactly.
You got to win the hearts and minds of the locals.
Break out the ice and strike up the band, boys and girls. The party's
Shipwreck.
about to begin.
With his Star Wars
Shipwreck. Well, they
binocular.
both got super Star Wars binoculars, but Shipwreck can't just say, "Hey guys, Cobra's coming." You gotta strike up the band. Like someone needs a translator. Maybe that's what Polly's role was always. Like maybe Polly was actually Shipwreck's translator.
Nobody understands what you're saying. Shipwreck.
We once again, Shipwreck, you're talking in Merchant Marine pilotese. Like just tell them that there's going to be missiles heading their way. So Mutt and Junkyard here. I love J. Joe because there's just so many characters and they just show up.
They're just popping up.
You know,
they
but
were
it's-
not on the boat earlier.
No, but it's like for me, it's such a rich universe. You know?
Yeah.
Like there's just such a variety of cool stuff to look at. Destro's on a boat that looks like it was never a toy. It's like a souped up. If you crossed the water moccasin with a G.I. Joe killer whale, hydrofoil. You know what I mean? The hovercraft. It's it's got like a cool snake thing on the front. It's the color of the water moccasin, and it's got a ton of guns on it. Okay. Matt, can you explain what just happened?
Destro was going to shoot a bazooka at Storm Shadow and sneeze and shot it up into the air. Because I guess somehow he got like dust or something up his metal mask.
Well, he says it's the air, like the cold, the rain and water is
but
giving him
isn't
a cold.
he, despite his accent, Scottish?
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. It's exactly what I was just going to say. He's Scottish. Why would this bother him? He should be like, this is like home. One thing I do notice
Oh,
is...
kitty.
That's super cute. What you notice is actually a lot of the scenes from this episode are used in the credits.
Huh.
You'll see when the end credits roll, like that exploding house, Destro finding the missile off into the air. That's stuff that's reused on. And so we've seen a lot of this episode on every episode because it's in the credits, the closing credits. And it is, and for the record, it's a really nice animated episode. I think it looks really good.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of. G.I. Joe always does good POV shots, you know, like they put the camera in interesting places.
Yeah.
You know, versus just showing a flat tableau of these, you know, animations interacting with each other. Like they'll put you in the cockpit of one of the toys, and probably to sell toys.
Yeah.
And to put the kid watching it, like I'm that guy. So, you know what I mean? Like I want to be
Exactly.
that guy.
I want that.
Yeah. Like we're in the POV of the missile. You know, it's a good shot. See that shot right there is from the that dam bursting. I think is in the credits. So they just shot a missile. Major Blood did, and it did blow the dam. So now the overloaded dam is sending a huge tidal wave, and it's going to drown Mutt and his little kitty cat friend. So we're going to commercial with nature. Masters of nature.
He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe, real American hero. G.I. Joe is there. It's G.I. Joe against Cobra and Destro, fighting to save the day. He never gives up. He's always there. fighting for freedom over land and air.
G.I. Joe Battle Tank, batteries not included. G.I. Joe Dragonfly Copter and Attack Vehicle, each sold separately from Hasbro. Now back to G.I. Joe.
Which brings me to a question, Matt, for you, working on Modern Family. When you guys like work on the plots for each episode, like, do you break it down? Because it's a sitcom.
Yeah.
I think most people don't think in terms of conflict, but obviously
Right.
there's always conflict.
Yeah.
Do you break it down like man versus nature, man, or like man versus? Like, is it always just person versus person?
I don't.
Because it's such a character-driven
I think
show?
basically what it starts with. I think lots of times they just pull from like experiences they've had in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of try to extrapolate from that, because especially in the early seasons, it was very realistic slice of life.
Yeah.
And so I think where it comes from is just trying to find. Typically, our best episodes are the ones where it's like, this is something realistic that happens within families that people deal with every day.
Well, and I forget, I'm blanking on his name. The actor, he Fizbo. Like, he was really Fizbo in real life.
Yeah, Eric Stone Street.
Eric Stone
Yeah,
Street.
he has clown experience.
Which I love. Have you met most of the players on the show?
I've met them. I think most of them recognize me. I'm not sure they know my name, but they know I belong to them.
Is it like a cool set, like friendly set, or is it?
Yeah, it's pretty
Seems
friendly. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all really pretty nice
Yeah.
people.
It seems like, I mean, just watching that show, the fact that they get into conflicts and they resolve it because they know that they're family and they know that they don't really mean it.
Yeah.
And for just to, genericize the
Exactly.
the momentum of most episodes. You can't do that when you have actual divas or actual conflicts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like real.
It makes it harder for sure.
Yeah.
There'd be a little more acting.
Right. They would all deserve that, because like there's just this. That's one of the things that I always liked about it when I first, like the first few years when I think all of us kind of fell for that show of like, they would get into it, but then ultimately they're like, oh no, you're my family. Like,
yeah, and it's what's nice about the show, because so many the comedies today, there's a lot more cynicism. There's a push to be edgier, and where people like argue all the time a lot.
That's it.
And so it's nice to have a show. I know sometimes it takes flack on the internet for being a little too sentimental sometimes, but I think there's an important place for that.
I agree 100%. That's you said exactly what I was trying to get across. Yeah, that's it. Like that lack of cynicism, I think, is really important, and it sets it apart.
Yeah.
If anything, the little girl, the adopted.
Yes.
What's her character's name?
Lily.
Lily. She's the most cynical.
Yes.
Stand back.
So, okay, wait. So back to the show.
No problem.
First of all, Quick Kick just threw an exploding Chinese star.
That he pulled out from under his what is that?
tunic,
His
like which
belt thing there.
But that means he's running around with like plastic explosive Chinese stars on his chest, which can't be safe.
No.
But Quick Kick and Spirit, they just rescued Footloose, and they're at least they busted him out of their cell. Now they have to figure out.
And he just pulled like a little. What did he just pull out of his headband?
Oh, that's funny. He said because Quick Kick just made a joke. Does he have a Mobat tank under his belt?
He's one to talk.
Yeah, he's got like a knife in his headband. But I feel like in comics, though, there's a rich tradition of hiding things under headbands. Anytime you have a headband, and
Yeah.
on the show too, you assume there's something hidden there because the bad guys never check your headband. Remember Storm and the X-Men?
Oh, yeah.
Storm used to keep lockpicks in her headbands.
Yeah.
Every time they'd get locked up, as long as the bad guys didn't tie her hands with a rope.
Right.
If they used a rope, she was out of luck. But if they actually used a lock, she could pick it.
I don't know how a rope stops Storm, but
Hey, just saying. She had to use the lockpicks.
yeah.
So, Quick Kick, let's not gloss this over. In order to signal Duke, Quick Kick basically made a makeshift bat signal. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
He made a Joe signal. And that's really awesome. Crimson Guards, when they're looking for him, more Chinese star action. And this one's like a gas Chinese star. See that image right there of Storm
Shadow
Shadow
jumping?
falling, that's in the credits too. Yeah, this show definitely they use this one a lot in the credits, and it's like the textures, the background
This
is
looks
great.
good.
Yeah, with all the castle motifs and stuff.
What else should we ask for?
Funny.
Bulletproof hide.
Right there. That's it. Duke
Bullet.
wants a bulletproof hide, but they're not shooting bullets. They'll give you. How about a
They're not going to
laser-proof-
hit you anyway.
Yeah, and they're not going to say laser-proof hide. I guess that sounds weird.
Yeah.
So Storm Shadow is using Excalibur on Quick Kick. He just took a foot to the face, and I love that Spirit's eagle, Freedom, is circling overhead, and Spirit just gave him a command to get the sword, I believe. Or see, here's my command: claw the eyes out of the guy in the white ninja outfit. So Freedom saves the day by taking the sword. He's probably going to take it back to the lake, I think. Oh,
Oh, I kicked him in the shin.
he totally kicked him in the shit. He was like, I'm done playing. Oh, and the lady in the lake's hand emerges from the lake and grabs the sword. And with a like a glowing ta-ding.
And the clouds part.
Clouds part.
They're not here yet.
No.
Oh.
Okay, that's great.
Well, now all we need is for Lady J and the rest of the Joes to look.
Oh, stop. That's the greatest. So earlier
Flint has a new power.
Yeah, he said something and it happened. He's like, hey, that would just happen again. Flint needs to play the lottery immediately. So those are Cobra moccasins. Destro still has his cold.
Maybe that's why he moved away.
Maybe, you're right. Maybe that's why he's like, I can't handle this weather. And the dude, the McTavish guy, he had to be Scotland, but they're not.
He actually has a Scottish accent.
Yeah, but oh, he's back, Beamish. Or is he Irish? He's Scottish.
But he's dressed Scottish, except
He's
he's a kilt short of being a cliche.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Yeah, I like that. A kilt short of being a cliche. Dude, the kitty cat is hanging out with Junkyard.
The cat that saved Mutt.
The cat that saved Mutt is hanging out with Junkyard. Look how big that girl's head is. It's huge.
It might be bigger than Duke's.
Yeah. Holy cow. They need to go back and reanimate that child. That child's head is larger than Duke's. That kid has the Zika virus. That's the episode, Matt. Thank you. What do you think?
That was fun. It was, I would assume, not the typical Joe episode.
No, not with magic swords and stuff. Usually, episodes like this, where right there, see that piece of animation? The house blowing
up, the missile
going to the bridge,
the dam,
water, like
Storm
that
Shadow.
all that's from this episode. Usually, the episodes like this are they're not my favorite because it's just too much of
it's a little too not what the show is.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, it's just a little too fantastical for what the show should be. Having said that, though, it's pretty awesome. I don't think they lived in the world of the mysticism. There was a problem caused by it, and then they had to deal with it in their very Joe way.
Exactly.
And that Flint has magical wishing powers now.
That's something I hope he can develop.
Oh my God! I hope we explore that in future episodes. That'd be so great. Matt Plassman, thank you so much for being a guest on Joe on Joe.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And remember out there, if you're inclined to do so, you can find me on iTunes and leave me a review. I'd love it. Love me or hate me, let me know. And on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, it's Joe on Joe Pod. And send me a note at joeonjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know if you want to be a guest. We're about to have our second remote guest.
Ooh.
We're about to have him on in just a few short weeks, so get ready. All right, thanks a lot. And remember, now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.